Often the best stories to tell are those in which you take a journey to challenge yourself. But when you do, you seemingly get much, much more than you ever expected. That certainly seems to be the case when Tom Putnam took on recreating Robert Michael Pyle's journey, his book, Where Bigfoot Walks Crossing the Dark Divide. But Tom brought on a great co-pilot in David Cross, and mixing in the talented Debra Messing, they told a story. But there was little doubt that they took a journey none of them would ever forget.
So, Bob, have you ever been camping before?
Yes, of course I've been camping before.
Bob's publisher can't wait to read the first draft of his next book.
You've been talking about this for years now.
Let's dial back on you being so miserable.
I apologize, but my wife is...
Alive. I'm alive. Go look for specimens. Get away from me for a while.
I love you.
I love you more.
Am I here?
You are here.
I thought it went this way. All right, I need to go this way. Bear with me 1 second, please.
Hey, you the butterfly guy?
Well, butterfly and moths. This is north. No, this is north. Where's the trail? I'm lost!
Get out of the way!
Hey!
How long you been on the trail?
I don't know. I guess I've lost track.
Seems ill-advised to be hiking so long without a radio or rifle. What if you run into a bear?
Why can't you see yourself as beautiful as I see you?
She thought you were a Bigfoot.
Do I look like a goddamn Bigfoot to you?
So, you're married?
I fell in love with her the second I heard her name. Tia Linnea.
Linnea. Like the little twin flowers.
Yeah, of course. The only dangerous animals I've run into are your men.
Well, you've been through an awful lot these last few years. It's only gonna get worse and worse till there ain't nothing left.
Happens next, but I'll be ready.
We sit down with David Cross and Tom Putnam and discuss their journey as we turn the spotlight and go deep into the dark divide.
It's a period piece outdoors in a place where the weather is terrible, about a quiet butterfly expert and poet. It has very little dialogue, and I kind of won the lottery.
Well, who's to say that the chemicals that we spray on so-called nuisance species aren't affecting other insect populations? You know, and that's another reason why my Gifford Pinchot expedition is so critical. Nobody has amassed a comprehensive list of the Lepidoptera in the region. And until we catalog all the species that reside there, how are we going to know whether their numbers are dwindling?
That is a great point. In fact, tell us a little bit more about this proposal of yours. Now, I assume that you already have a start date, you've planned out.
Well, no, I don't have a date as of yet. My class schedule is just crazy.
So you're going during summer break.
Oh,
that's terrific.
Summer makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I don't have a date as of yet. It's really a complicated endeavor, gentlemen.
Yeah, it must be. You've been talking about this for years now.
Yeah.
So, Bob, will you bring your supplies with you, or are you going to have them dropped by helicopter?
Well, I suppose there's you bring some and then others are dropped.
First and foremost, I just want to say I've already told Tom how much I really love this film, but I have to say, David, your performance is just, I mean, it's otherworldly. I mean, it's one of those that I won't forget for a long time.
Well, thank you. That's very nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to start with you, if I could, and ask you how much of Robert Pyle's influence was for you. You know, obviously he's still around, and I don't know if you read the book. I know some actors kind of don't want to get that kind of influence sometimes. They want to kind of make it their own thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious what your approach was in your process and how much he played a role in it.
I mean, I started to, you know, once I'd read the script and signed on and did like a cursory bit of Googling, Tom sent me a bunch of his books and I started reading. And after about, I mean, probably less than a third of the way through, I think I put the book down and I told Tom I'm not going to read anymore because it was interfering with what was in my head and the way I wanted to approach it from the script. And, you know, which at that time I probably read a couple times at that point and we were going back and forth doing rewriting scenes and things like that. And I was really starting to get a handle on how I'd approach this and how I start from this point and then end up at this point emotionally. And Tom said, like, oh, you know what? I was going to tell you, don't stop reading. Don't read them. And I did. I met with Robert a couple times and we hung out. He's a great guy. And, you know, you have to be respectful and to the person you're portraying. But I was not interested in doing an impression. But I still have to make it a story that I can relate to, that I only have an X amount of experience to pull from. It was pretty much me just filtering this idea of what this person would be like. I haven't lost somebody like he did that I've been that close to. So I have to imagine what that would be like, which I did. It's also a film, you know? Yeah. You have to be mindful of that as well.
And I'm sure Debra helped you along the way in getting that emotion going. And things
very much so. I don't think I could have gotten there without. She did a lot of the heavy lifting in those scenes. And did you know? Her process is way more intensive, and also hair and makeup, which is one woman, Heather Grapaldi, did a great job, and that was all helpful, you know. And yeah, Debra nailed it. Oh, God. Sorry.
Bob, let's dial back on you being so miserable.
Well, I apologize, but my wife is
alive. I'm alive.
I know. Okay, I know. Oh, stop. No! I'll quit it. Don't! God. Here, Tia.
I'm fine. Look.
No.
I'm fine.
You're not fine.
Yes, I am. Honey. Grab your girlfriend, Marcia. Go look for specimens and scribble down some of that poetry you keep threatening to write. Just get away from me for a while.
No. Tia, no. Hey. I'm here right now. What can I do?
Go. I already made you a lunch. It's with Marcia. Go.
You know, the interesting thing, we talked about the environment the last time we spoke, Tom, but the interesting thing, I'm rewatching this, I picked up a couple things that I wanted to talk to you about. It now, the approach to the shot selections, going wide most of the time, and then getting down and dirty. Anytime that David would get down into like the grass or onto the dirt, especially the scene on the cave when he almost falls off the cliff, kind of, you know, that those kind of scenes, you get down in there. And I'm curious, were those pre-selected shots, or were those things that you determined on set, on in the environment you were in, or what was the process in kind of keeping that? The wide thing I understand because he's walking and everything, but I mean, for the most part, those shorter shots and the tighter, really in the grass that one time, that was really amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely intentional. Sean Bagley was the director of photography. That's only his second feature, which is insane to think about. Yeah. He's so good. We talked a lot about, I've watched every movie like this at this point, and with only a couple of exceptions, it generally just looks like a dude in the trees. Oh, look, more trees. Hey, some more trees. And it was really important to me to get wide, really get a sense of the place, or be very close and very intimate. I mean, you even see it, there's a lot of little macro shots of like the tiny flowers and the mushrooms and things. I really wanted us to feel like we were there with him, we're in the water with him, we're on the edge of the cliff with him, we're at time there's a couple sequences where the camera's like mounted on him when he's running for his life. And I think that really helps people feel that it's like an experience. I hope.
Yeah, for sure. David, when you're doing a lot of this on your own, you have very little interaction with other actors in many of these moments, and experiencing the environment you're around. How was it for you? You were. I hope I don't give a spoiler away here, but you're in your underwear for quite a bit of this time as well. Just your underwear and socks.
That's quite the spoiler alert.
Why would you? Joe.
Don't give it away.
But I mean, for you, how did you handle? Were you able to even enjoy any of the incredible scenery that was around you? Did you absorb it at all?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it more when it was all put together and I was watching it.
Sure.
But I mean, and I also, I went on this hike in part of the woods where we were shooting with a survivalist, and I went butterfly hunting with Robert, and went on these hikes, and I was able to really appreciate it then when I didn't have to worry about all these other things like not killing myself, or some of those the scene at the end where I emerge into the gorge. I mean, that's just a stunning view.
Yeah.
And being way up in some of those above the tree line, and walking through the snow, that's real mountain June snow. That's June. That's June on the mountaintop, and that's I was, physically miserable a lot, but it was still, it was never not beautiful. That's for sure.
And the film, I think, has this nice leisurely pace, but I mean, we shot it all in 22 days. So every day was like, run. Okay, we have 5 minutes. Let's get this one take. And so, I mean, everybody would sort of be like, wow, this is beautiful. Okay, action. Okay, let's go. Everybody back in the van.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're very famous for being very stellar at improv. And I'm curious, too, did you feel like there was some moments that you were able to bring that to the table a little bit more? And did you stay pretty much designed to the script that Tom had put in front of you?
I mean, not really. I think the only thing where I was riffing like I would normally riff was which we ended up cutting way down, but the gas station scene, which is in the beginning of the film, but we shot that towards the very end. And at that point, speaking to what you were talking about earlier, I was just thrilled to be able to work with other actors. And when, there was, we had Dave Koechner. David Koechner was there for 2 days, and that was like a little vacation where I actually got to with a really gifted, these other actors and a comic actor that I've worked with numerous times, and then Cameron Esposito, I got to work with her, and I just remember being like a little kid, just thrilled, like, yay, people, I get to talk to people.
That trail you've been hiking was our highway for 20,000 years. My ancestors would trade salmon from the river, obsidian from the Oregon deserts, seashells from the coast. The four corners of this land were the volcanoes.
Tahoma to the north, Pateau to the east, Wais to the south, and Luit to the west. Our stories say that Wais and Luit were once lovers who were turned to stone.
Lovers. The tribes met at Council Lake at the base of Pateau, but they abandoned it because there's too many big feet there. They renamed it Cultus Lake, Bad Lake.
And I think that's, to the best of my knowledge, there's really not much riffing outside.
Not even the motorcycle scene?
No, that wasn't really riffed. No.
Nice.
That was one of those, like, the sun's setting. Everybody, we gotta go. You know, David, I have a question. Like, there's two times in the movie, once in the lava tunnel and once and what you think is going to be a quiet little scene where you kneel down, you see flowers that remind you of Tia, where these things sort of explode out of you. Did you know that was that, how planned was that? As a director, I was like, there were these amazing moments that I didn't even expect.
What was I don't remember the lava tube one, but I remember the flowers. That came from, we had a couple of discussions about the amount of times that Robert breaks down and cries and is overwhelmed. And I was kind of fighting that. Like, I think we've got enough of sadness and being, I don't know how I described it at the time, but enough, like, you know, just breaking down and getting smaller. And so that came out of an idea of almost like a little kid having a tantrum, you know, this is unfair. Fuck this, this is unfair. No, you know, and I'd leave it kind of vague that what I'm saying no to, but that's where that came from. But I don't remember the lava tube. What was the lava tube?
You get to the dead end and you give up. And that was another moment where, you know, I wrote the script. So I thought it was just this sort of thing where you wilt, but you have this sort of last explosion and then it just takes it all out of you. And it was such a cool.
I think that was probably just from the idea that I'm done. I'm going to die here. I am going to die here. And I think, you know, there are probably a lot of steps, but I don't think you immediately go to collapsing and crying and giving up. I think there's a little burst of anger at the universe and how can this can't possibly be this is how it's going to end. This is crazy. What happened? I'm going to die here and no one is going to find me.
I love those moments.
Especially. I mean, is that the moment when he gets the joke too? Is that the moment you're talking about, Tom?
Yeah, the thing Tia said to him before. Yeah,
I guess it is sort of funny.
I feel like that wasn't in the script, that you improvised that. I can't remember.
Well, that's something that wasn't in the script, but I think early on I said, oh, he should, you know,
get it.
It wasn't on the day we were shooting it, but it was like maybe that week I was like, oh, you know what? He should say the thing that Tia says.
I have trouble remembering. That was a day where we were all just trying not to get killed.
I also really admire the idea of the hard cuts too, Tom. And, you know, cutting right to the water and then obviously the you know, basically you infer things, you don't show them, you know, like when he's in the tent and the wolves are out there and, you know, and then of course when he's falling down the cave hole in the lava hole and everything like that. And you do a lot of hard cutting there. Was that because you knew this was going to be a slower paced film? Was that to induce some action, or was that more just to keep his POV for you? What did you feel in the editing? Was that?
That's a great question. I love hard cuts because I think it's such a great way to drop the audience into like the panic. I mean, had we seen Bob fall off the log, whatever, but like to just all of a sudden be in the water with him and what's happening? Oh, we're in water. Oh, is that him? Yeah, that's him. Is he going under? Like, what's all that sound? I love those moments that kind of shock me. I mean, it's,
yeah,
I've worked a lot with veterans and they talk about how war is like 95% boredom, 5% terror. And I feel like Bob's journey was like 95%, oh, this is beautiful, and 5%, I think I'm going to die. So like, I think it's a great way to have people kind of get in that space for a minute. Plus dissolves. Who wants dissolves? Like, why have...
Or go from one wide to another wide. That also is like, you know.
I really like star wipes are like my favorite, but the producers they put their foot down. They took it out of the Avid.
So David, did you feel like you want to do more dramas? Is that your aim, or are you going back to a comfort zone for you?
I mean, I'll do whatever project is worthwhile, you know, and or pays a lot.
There's such a thing.
Yeah, the chipmunk world is pretty lucrative. Yeah, I would. I mean, I'm happy to do more dramas, of course, if it's worthwhile. I just did. I mean, it wasn't, you know, intensely dramatic, but I did this run on the Aretha Franklin Genius thing where I played Jerry Wexler. I did something on The Post, a Steven Spielberg movie. I'm doing something now for HBO Max called Station 11, which, you know, are not serious dramatic roles, but they're certainly not the kind of overly arch comic stuff I've done before. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Does it exercise a different muscle for you in your acting prowess? Do you think?
For sure. Yeah. Comedy is you know, comes somewhat naturally to me, and I've had a lot of experience now, and it's, I would say, quote, easier, unquote, to do. So yeah, definitely, you know, is challenging and stretches a different muscle, or uses a different muscle.
Nice.
Or sometimes pulls a different muscle.
Nonsense? You're talking about a species that will never be back. We'll never see it again, along with who knows how many others. And once they're gone, that's it. They're gone forever. Okay? You don't get to snap your fingers and have them come back. You know, they're gone forever, and all we have are memories.
Have you ever seen a spotted owl?
No. Because they're very rare. Because they're endangered.
Well, count your lucky stars. Mean sons of bitches. I'm glad to see them gone.
Hey, that's terrible. That's a terrible thing to say.
I'm sure it is to someone like you.
Okay.
Thanks to misinformed do-gooders like yourself, there's too many trees, too much brush, too many regulations.
Okay. Fewer plants mean fewer insects. Fewer insects mean fewer frogs and birds. Fewer frogs and birds means fewer larger mammals. Fewer of them means fewer of us.
On that, we agree.
Okay, good. Good. How, in what way?
You ever heard of a rustic bunty?
I don't know.
You remind me of a rustic bunty. Saw one the other day. Brown bird, about that big. Ought to be in Siberia. But here it was. Dumb little bird. Stupid little bird. Surprised if it lives another week out here.
Can I get another cup of coffee, please?
No.
Tom, you have some experience in documentary filmmaking. You're doing a lot more recently too, and I'm curious, was there ever a thought that this was going to was this always going to be a narrative for you, or did you think about doing a documentary? Because Robert is still around, and obviously, I mean, it could have played like that. In some respects.
Yeah, Bob Pyle, who wrote the book, keeps telling people I was going to make a documentary, and then he says that I was going to make it with him starring in it, and I'm like, I was not going to do that. I promise you. No, I for whatever reason, I read the book and it just felt like a movie to me.
Nice.
Plus, I feel like there's a million sort of like Bigfoot documentaries, and that's just not my jam.
What do you guys love about indie film? What is it that you really enjoy about it? I know I've asked you this, Tom, already, but if you want to answer again, that's fine. But David, what do you really love about indie film?
I mean, it's really about freedom and autonomy. You know, it's you're answering to a different authority, and with indie film, you're making the film that you pitched and sold, and they said, okay, go make it. And, you know, you're not relying or dependent upon notes of people at a studio that you'll never meet talking about an algorithm that you have to adhere to. And so that's the best thing about indie film to me, is it's freedom.
We had a lot of flexibility. That gave us the things we were able to change in the moment. If we were doing a bigger film, that would have never. People are freaked out.
Independent film is the only place you can go to tell a story unfettered, and I was really lucky in that I got to make this crazy movie and kind of do whatever I wanted.
Do you feel like a piece of this movie is going to stay with you for a long time? Do you feel like Robert, especially his influence and his story, is you guys, I don't want to say like forever changed, because that's just silliness, but do you feel like something is different after having this experience?
Gray hair for me. I'll answer for me. Something that I loved about not just Robert's book, but how he lives his life, is he reminds you that there's a lot of different ways to like present yourself as a man, and what it means to be a man, and what it means to be strong. You know, he's the polar opposite of the like, Bruce Willis is in a skyscraper, how's he gonna get out of this? And I love that, and I love the confidence he has in that and his place in the world. And like, he'll sit down and talk to you about butterflies, and you're like, butterflies are badass, this is awesome. And I love his fearlessness with that. And that's definitely something I think about as a parent now, having made the movie, that I try to remind my son that there's a lot of different ways to be a man.
And for me, I'm more aware of a connection to nature. I have more of an appreciation of it, a conscious appreciation. I think I always appreciated it. Like, water is good, but I have a deeper appreciation for it. I'm in a personal way, this is a thing that was challenging that I know I can do now because I did it. Patty, will you get that? Tell him I'm busy. Patty, tell him I'm busy. Line 1.
Sorry.
No, we don't validate. Sorry. We don't validate.